Thank you, JHD, and thank you everyone for joining. Go ahead, Kandan. Sorry, every once in a while I'm going to say go ahead because my little kiddo is watching a movie. But anyway, when I was first talking with JHD, we were talking about the legislation of teaching Asian American Pacific Islander history in schools. You know, I was really thinking about, well, how can we teach that through the museum's collection? And as I was saying before, my background is in fine arts. I've been teaching in museum education for the past 20 years, but I also do freelance work. But most of what I do is teaching art and culture, or art and history, culture and history through the arts. And when we were talking about this, I was thinking specifically about an artist from the museum's collection who you may know about, who has documented American history through photographs. But specifically relevant to this month, is Filipino American History Month. So we're thinking about the idea of how can we learn about Filipino American history and Filipinos' contributions to American history, specifically agriculture, through artwork. So artist I'm talking about that's in our collection is Dorothea Lange. And these are four of her photographs that's in our collection. And one thing that's really interesting about Dorothea Lange is she always said that she doesn't view photos as art, but a way to affect social change. And through this presentation, when I show different images and photographs and talk about her work, you'll see what she was talking about or trying to get to. So this is an image of a Dorothea Lange, taken by her husband Paul S. Taylor. And what I'm going to show you are some photographs that she had taken in the 1930s. In the 1930s, Dorothea Lange started working as a photographer for the Resettlement Administration. It later became American Farm Settlement Act. But in 1938, she and Paul Taylor looked at the collection of photographs they had taken. They looked at the field notes that they did during that time, and they created this book called An American Exodus. And that's an old copy, but you can also just order American Exodus online. It's really easy to get. It's really interesting. It talks about the idea of not just migrant farmers, but what was the American economy like, or what was the agricultural landscape like post-Depression. So as it says over here, her work and her photographs tried to humanize the consequences of the Great Depression. So what she would do is she would go out in the fields, and before taking photographs of people, she would ask them, specific questions about where they're from, what they're doing, what they're farming, and try to create a rapport with them. And then she would let them work, and she would try to find times and moments where it was almost candid, so she would just capture the moment it was there. Paul S. Taylor would then look at these photographs and created writing to kind of document the history along with her photographs. And one thing that's interesting is that when John Steinbeck was writing The Grapes of Wrath, he was actually influenced by Dorothea Lange's photograph during this time and during this period. So out of this series is a photograph that most people equate Dorothea Lange with, about migrant worker. She actually made, a migrant mother. She actually made 7 photographs of this family, but she only sent 5 of them to the government. And many years later, after taking this, she described her experience of photography by saying, "I saw and approached the hungry and desperate mother, as if drawn by a magnet, working in closer from the same direction." Go ahead, Kandan. And what made me think about this more and think about this project and this presentation is right now at the museum, we have on the left an image of Vic Muniz, a Brazilian artist, who tried to recreate migrant mother, but thinking about materiality, thinking about ink. Then on the right, Hung Lu is another artist in the museum's collection. She has a different painting up, but she was also influenced by Dorothea Lange's photographs, mostly because she said she can relate to the plight of some of the figures in the photographs, being someone who had gone through the Chinese Revolution. So going back to Dorothea Lange, I started thinking about what are other resources that we can find that is available to anyone and it's accessible easily. So if you actually go to the Library of Congress, you can actually see collections of her photographs, just like this one. This is Filipinos cutting lettuce in Salinas. She had taken in June 1935. She took a series of photographs from the 1930s to 1938. but this is the one that got me started thinking about her documentation of Filipino farm workers in America post-Depression. Some of the other photographs that she has, actually, I hadn't seen these before until I started looking through the Library of Congress. And just so you know, later on, we're going to send you links to these photographs and how to find them in the Library of Congress too. But what I really liked about these photographs is the idea, just like she mentioned, that she was trying to humanize and not necessarily exotify the workers. She was trying to capture them in the moment at their place of work. And then one thing that kept coming through was something that I kept thinking about that was relevant to a lot of migrant farmers during that time, is the idea of stoop labor. And stoop labor, I'm going to talk about it more, is basically what it sounds like. Stoop labor is a lot of migrant farmers, specifically non-white farmers, were given these small axes and small hoes to work with. And as the name suggests, they have to stoop down to actually do the work. So it's really literal backbreaking work. And this were some of the notes that Lange Taylor and a farmer that they had spoken with had said. So I'll just read it for you. So Dorothea Lange, after speaking to one of the farmers, said, to perform its stoop labor, California agriculture has drawn upon a long succession of races: Chinese, Japanese, Hindustanis, Mexicans, Black Americans, and now American whites. So it's also interesting that in these notes that we don't hear about as much is that it wasn't just Filipino farmers, it wasn't just Mexican farmers, but you had a mix of Chinese farmers, Japanese farmers, Indian Sikh farmers that were working in agriculture at that time. And then Taylor, when writing about this time period, he said that a lot of farm owners preferred as year-round employees. The role of whites among seasonal harvest workers was limited primarily to the so-called ladder crops, mostly fruit. So instead of stoop labor, a lot of other white farmers would be among the ladders picking fruit, so much easier work. And then there was one passage in the field notes where Dorothea Lange had talked to a farmer from Oklahoma, and he said, that's where a lot of our trouble is. The country is too heavily populated with foreigners. The farmers ain't got no business hiring them for low wages when we native white American citizens are starving. So those are just some of the passages. And one thing I kept thinking about is, the voices from, go ahead, Kannan, the voices of the people who were being portrayed and photographed. Go ahead, Kannan. So, and this was Kannan. So, sorry about that. So here's another photograph of a stoop laborer up close. And this is the description from, yes, 1 second. And this is a description from one of the stoop farmers, a bracero. This was actually Mexican farm workers who also had to do the same kind of labor. One bracero said that the hoe was an instrument of horror designed by the devil. And then one quote from another farmer said that, I was a crew pusher for 10 years. I became disabled and I can no longer bend over. During my working years, my friends used to make fun of me because of the way I walk. Bend forward like a gorilla, which is caused by working with a cortito. A cortito is the short tool. I consider myself an experienced man with both hoes, short and long. Being a crew pusher, I found out that the growers believe they can get more work out of people by only allowing hoes with a short handle. The grower has more control over the workers when he has them working with a short-handled hoe because he can see when they are resting or standing up. So on that note, we have these images that we've seen. We have some passages from some of the farmers, and we have some quotes from them. Now, what I wanted to show is this film by Marisa Arroy. It's a short documentary, about 26 minutes long, and it's also available on PBS, so you can view it for free. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to play a video that Marisa had sent me so I can share with you of the Delano Manongs. So I'm going to stop this over here and then share the other video. But before I go, does anyone have any questions